Hello, today we will be making jambalaya, which is an authentic Louisiana Creole Cajun dish that's just layered and layered with flavors. Jambalaya, it's basically a mix of three things: rice, vegetables, and meat. And today I'm going to show you how to make that. A lot of people wonder where that word comes from, jambalaya. A lot of people say it stems from the French word jambon, which stands for ham, and aya, which is an African term for rice. So today we are going to make jambalaya, and I'm really excited to do this for you. First, we're going to start out with, right here, the butter and the onions. That's basically gonna start off the dish, and that's basically it's gonna stem from that flavor from the butter and the onions. And then we're gonna add the pancetta down here, the ham or the bacon, and we're just gonna mix that up and brown it up really good. And then we're gonna add a little bit of this sausage here, which is chorizo, which is basically a spicy Spanish sausage. And we're just gonna start off with those four things, and that's really gonna give it a ton of flavor. We're just gonna cook that down really good so it becomes this caramelized bit at the bottom, and that's where our flavor is gonna start from. And then we're basically gonna layer everything else, all the different meats and vegetables. We're gonna add, this is what they call in Louisiana the Trinity, what basically I do though is I add two trinities to this. So the traditional trinity is the onions, the green bell peppers, and the celery. But I've also added red bell pepper, jalapeno peppers, and some scallions. So we'll add that, we'll layer that to the dish, and we're also gonna add other meats like shrimp. We got some chicken here, some andouille sausage, and we'll probably add a little more chorizo depending on where we're at. Again, you can kind of throw whatever you want into it. These are just some of the ingredients that I like to add. And then we're gonna layer it with some dry spices here, which is basically cumin, cayenne pepper, chili powder, and paprika. And then we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce down here, and about a tablespoon of fresh garlic, minced garlic. We'll probably add a bay leaf to the mix, the rice, and of course with all Cajun dishes you want to add a little tomato, so we're gonna add a few petite diced tomatoes. We got some chicken broth back here that's gonna basically give us the broth for everything. And then I like to add a little cilantro at the end. It just kind of gives it a nice kind of pop, nice little flavor, and a little accent to the dish. But again, you can add other ingredients that you want, whatever ingredients that you like, dry spices, and other things, all right? Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use one of these stainless steel pots, and we're gonna add about a half a stick of butter, all right? Okay, and once that butter's melted down, we're gonna add about a half an onion. I guess it really depends on the size of the onion, but I'd probably say it's about a cup of chopped diced onions. And we're just gonna stir that up, and basically what we're doing here is we're just sweating the onions, which is, we're gonna get them really translucent in the butter, and that's gonna start the flavor of our jambalaya. All right, next thing we're gonna do is add the ham, or the pancetta. This is just gonna give it a ton of flavor. And then we're just gonna stir this up really good. That smells really good. You gotta get your nose right in there. Yep! Oh, you smell the pork and the onions and the butter. Oh, it smells like a bastard. All right, so remember when I was talking about those layers of flavor? We're just gonna add another layer here to the onions, butter, and the bacon. We're gonna add a little, got a little chorizo there. That's gonna give it a little bit of pop, spice. It's just a fantastic sausage to throw in basically any dish. And yet another layer of flavor. About 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Oh, smell that. All right, so as you can see, the chorizo, onions, butter, and the bacon is all sort of cooking down. And it's really starting to caramelize. And what you really want is it to really crispen up on the bottom. You really want those crispy bits on the bottom. That's what's really going to give it a lot of flavor. I wish you all could smell this right now. You see here, you just want to keep scraping the bottom of that pan and keep stirring, don't let it burn. And you probably want to keep this at about a medium to medium-high heat. Again, these stainless steel pans can get really hot really quickly, so you got to kind of be careful, but you definitely want the crispiness, but you don't want it to burn. Okay, so right about now, we're going to add about a half a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. About a half a can, give or take. Just gonna stir that up. We're gonna add some garlic. About 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna mix that all in real good. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes, and so looks like this is simmering really nicely. And so what we're gonna add is the double trinity that I like to call it, which is the traditional trinity, which is the white onion or Spanish onion, green bell pepper, and the celery. And then I like to add another trio of the red bell peppers, the jalapeno peppers, and the scallions or green onion. So we're just gonna add a little bit of everything. Green bells, some more onion. I know we did add onions earlier to give it, that bottom pan that nice crust or that nice flavor with the pork, but we do add another layer of onions on top of it. And we'll add a little scallion. I like to save a little bit of the scallion for the end. For right at the end of the dish. So we'll add a little of the jalapeno peppers in as well. And then we'll just stir that and let that boil down. I do want to add a little bit of this dry spice. Again, this is like cumin, cayenne pepper, chili pepper, and paprika, and a little salt and black pepper, kosher salt and black pepper. So we'll stir in all those spices real good. And again, we're just gonna let that simmer down. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add some of this andouille sausage, which is basically made of pork and beef. And I believe a little bit of turkey. So I'm gonna throw some of the sausage, this nice andouille sausage. I'm gonna stir that real good. And actually we're just gonna do another small layer of dry rub. A little more, why not? All right. Okay, so here we're gonna add another layer of basically the same thing we're doing. We're gonna add the rest of the can, the other half of the can of the diced tomatoes. Then we're gonna add the rest of this double trinity. Let's throw all that in there. The dry spice. Not too much, because you're always kind of adding that layer every time, so just be mindful of how much spice you're throwing in there. Depends on how you like it. I don't know, some people like it super spicy, some people like it mild or whatever. I like it somewhere in between. I like probably a little more heat than normal. But to each his own, whatever you want. Another layer of sausage. Yup, yup, yup. Okay, so this is simmered down pretty good. So This is the time where we want to add some of the chicken stock, which is I have here. I have about 2 cups. I'm gonna add about half of that in there. And then I'm gonna add I have about 2 cups of rice in here, but I think I'm only gonna add about 1.5 cups of it. So we'll add that. And we're gonna let that cook down. And we're probably gonna add a little more stock in a little bit as that rice cooks in. And then we're gonna add the chicken in now. I'm adding the chicken in late just because with chicken, it can dry up really quickly. So I like to add the chicken on later on in the phase. And you did notice I did have shrimp as well. I'm gonna add that closer to the end just because I didn't use raw shrimp. I'm using pre-cooked shrimp. So I don't want that just to turn into like a rubber ball. So I'll put that right in at the end. All right, so we'll add that. We'll stir it around. Maybe add another layer of dry seasoning on top. And let that cook. So we're gonna add about 2 bay leaves right about now. And we'll add the rest of that stock. Stir that up real good. And I'm probably gonna cover this and then let this simmer down and let the rice kind of do its thing. Okay, so about right now the rice is starting to expand, so it's really thickening up, and all those juices are really kind of soaking into everything with the meat, the vegetables. And so right about now is where we're gonna throw in this last layer really of like cilantro and green onion. This is just gonna give it just a little more pop, a little more flavor. And probably in a little bit, I'm gonna add that cooked shrimp just to top it off, and then we should be done and ready to eat. Just gonna cover that up and let it simmer. All right, so as you can see, the rice is really starting to expand. It's starting to really thicken up. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this shrimp. Again, this is pre-cooked shrimp. Unfortunately, if you have fresh shrimp, obviously I recommend that much more, but this is just what I had in the freezer and just thought I'd use it up. And now if you see here, back here, the bay leaf back here, we'll still stir that in some more to give it more flavor. But what you're gonna wanna do at the end with that bay leaf, you're gonna kinda wanna fish that out. You don't wanna serve that in your dish. All right, so now we're gonna check on the jambalaya. And it looks like it is about done. Yep, the rice is all expanded, it's soaked in all those juices. And we are about to eat. Yep. And there we are. Bon appetit.